Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome to this week's video. We are going to be going over the do's and don'ts for bike packing. As you know, I just got done with my first ever bike packing trip, which took place like 2 weeks ago because I was in between jobs. And so the totals for that trip came in at like 254 miles all the way from Raleigh, or I guess from Raleigh to Boone, and then to Linville Gorge. And then we climbed over like 16,000 feet elevation. I think it was like, let's see, 16,540. So that's pretty huge for your first bikepacking trip, but it was a lot of moving on the road. And that's not usually what you would think of for a bikepacking trip. You think more of going into a national forest and covering territory, but it doesn't matter because bikepacking is what bikepacking is to you. It could even be just going out biking to the park and making coffee and then biking back to your house. Whatever you define as bikepacking, that's what bikepacking is. So bikepacking for me was going from Raleigh to Winston-Salem to Boone to Linville Gorge, and then having my buddy Matt to come drive me back to Raleigh so I didn't have to bike all the way back home. But so with that trip, I learned a ton. I learned a ton about myself and about the bikepacking setup. And so I want to share with you a few tips that I will take with me moving forward. And before we get to the tips, I just want to tell you to subscribe to the channel so you know when I release a video and you can see the updates. Because also we want to grow a community together. This isn't just me. Yes, this is my video diary, so to speak, but I want to communicate with you. So like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below and let me know how you're doing and what tips I should be listening to for my future bikepacking trip. All right, so back to the tips. Tip number 1, plan for the unexpected. If you plan for something and you expect it to go a certain way, newsflash, it will never go according to plan. In the video, as you saw, me and Mac got absolutely dumped on by rain. We just got to the campsite. 15 minutes later, what seemed like a monsoon came over the mountain and just drenched all of our gear. Luckily, we found some other natural shelter, but had I not bought this paracord the day before, we wouldn't have been able to actually hang up all of our gear and dry it out by the fire, which allowed us to then be able to sleep on dry equipment. So always plan for the unexpected. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just kind of universal things to think about, like paracord, duct tape, patch kits, whatever that may be to you, where you're going. Plan for the unexpected. Tip number 2 is do research about the area that you are going. Once again, it is more common sense, but plan for where you are going. Matt and I, we drank the water and we had water filters with us. We had ways to get clean water, or we had ways to make water clean to drink, but we didn't have a source of water without going back down the mountain. And once we hiked a bike up, we really did not want to go down. So luckily it rained that night, so we were able to put out pans to catch water to drink. But had that not happened, I really don't know where we would have gotten the water from. There were some still little pools in the rock face that collected, but there's no telling which birds had been in that, what bugs and whatever's in there. And definitely don't drink still sitting water, but that probably would have been the only source of water we had, and we weren't gonna drink that anyway. So it's a long wait to morning and dehydration and stuff after biking up the mountain. So do some research, plan, go read some forums to see who's been there before and their tips and information on that as well. But yeah, so do your reading and do your research about the area you are going. Tip number 3 is do a lot of test runs before you go on your trip. I did test runs, but I didn't actually like interact with my gear on those test runs. So make sure you interact with your gear as well. But also, so from going from Raleigh to Winston, I had to keep getting into the my compression saddle bag to keep getting the suntan lotion and the chamois cream out. knowing what I know now, I would have put that in my main like control center, I'm gonna call it, on like the frame bag, so it's easy access. Because once you get that back saddlebag strapped down, compressed, and snug, you don't want to get back in there to unpack everything and then pack it back in. So definitely interact with your gear on the rides before your actual bikepacking trip, and make sure you know where everything is, how everything's going to function, how everything's going to pack, and what you're going to need every day, so you don't just have to keep unpacking, because it's very frustrating to have to unpack and then pack up at a gas station, which I had to do twice. So don't do that. All right, so tip number 4 is make your equipment better. And how do you do that? Okay, so these are, oh, there's one. These are CO2 cartridges. How do we make these better? When you have these in your bags, unless they're stuffed full of stuff, they just keep rattling together and everything, and it's really annoying sound. Take some old bicycling tubes, inner tubes, and cut them up and put them around the CO2 just like so. And so then it muffles the sound and you can't hear them. Another one is that for bikepacking, put the duct tape on the pump, because this has to go in there anyway, and you don't want another, like an additional duct tape roll or something that takes up more space. Put the duct tape roll on the bike pump, and then it will consolidate space. And then lastly, one more tip for equipment is if you have some old eye drop bottles, allergy eye drops, red eye drops, whatever, take the top piece out, and then you can fill it with bike lube. And so it goes from having this pretty bulky container to this thin little narrow profile bottle. So that's what I mean by making your equipment better and make your equipment work for you, kind of. Just think about how you can consolidate, how you can multi-use and maybe put one product in another, etc. So think about that. I would love to hear your ideas on what else I can consolidate too. These are the 3 heavy hitters for me, but if you have any other ideas and recommendations, please let me know. Tip number 5 is have fun. And this is the most cheesy tip of all, but honestly, you have to have fun. Me and Matt and me going to Boone along the way came to many friction points, and not with each other, but with the route, the road, getting cold, our stuff getting rained on and everything, and we had to keep remembering, like, it's no big deal. My chain even came off my cassette and got stuck behind the cassette. That was another issue, like, one after another. But the mentality of bikepacking, I think, is the mentality of van lifing. It's point A to point B. You'll get there when you get there. You're just sightseeing and having fun. So make sure you never lose track of what you're doing and just have fun with it. That's what it's always about. So thank you for watching this video. Like I was saying before, like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below of what other products you use for bikepacking, how you consolidate your equipment, and what other tips I should add. So thanks for checking out the video, and I hope you have a fantastic week.